I want to thank, first of all, Governor Stitt for his strong energy leadership. His vision for Oklahoma, I think, is a vision that all of us could take back to Washington, D.C. When I delivered this address a year ago, the world was reeling from the war in Ukraine and the resulting energy crisis. Today, war and instability continue, but the global energy crisis does not. How is that possible? It's in large part because of American energy and our skilled workers. They live and solve problems across America, from Alaska and California to Michigan and Pennsylvania. In fact, oil and natural gas supports nearly 11 million American jobs, 350,000 in the state of Oklahoma alone. In the past few years, these men and women boosted oil and natural gas production, even as Washington policies held them back. When we needed them most, these workers kept the lights on. It's work that all of Washington should commend. The difficult conflict in Israel and Gaza and the aggression in the Red Sea have not yet made a major impact on global energy markets, but the risks are high. Our elected leaders have a decision to make. Will they learn from the past mistakes of the last energy crisis, or will they repeat them? We produce more energy than any other country in the world. This benefits our economy, our national security, and it's our insurance in a volatile world. This is the American energy advantage. It didn't happen overnight, and it can't be sustained without the right policies from Washington, D.C. It is the fruit of decades of bipartisan commitment, dating back to the 1970s, a time with remarkable similarities to the moment we're in today. In 1973, war broke out in Israel, and the U.S. rushed to its aid, prompting OPEC to retaliate by blocking oil exports into the United States. Prices went through the roof. Gas lines extended for blocks. It led to a decade-long stretch in which every president, irrespective of party, agreed that America needed greater energy independence and invested in U.S. energy capabilities. Until now. Today, Washington is on the cusp of spoiling the American energy advantage, undermining it with short-sighted policies and hostility towards U.S. oil and natural gas. Our leaders are placing the American energy advantage at risk for future generations. For people like Zoe Wright of Northeast Pennsylvania. Zoe is a high school senior. Several years ago, she attended a summer camp where she practiced welding and learned about the oil and gas industry. She impressed her instructors so much that she secured an internship with a prominent energy company, API member Coterra. Now, Zoe is taking dual enrollment classes in her high school and through a local college, through an industry-funded training program. She's getting so much college credit that she will only need 1 year of college classes before graduating, when she plans to work in the energy industry. Zoe is here with us today, with her mom, Sarah. Stand up, Zoe. Many of you know that I have 3 college-age kids, and I challenge them all the time to make sure that they graduate with a vocation, not an avocation. Zoe is going to graduate with a vocation, and she's got a great future in the American energy industry. She and others like her want to keep the lights on by strengthening our American energy advantage. Some in Washington would prefer to hold them back, to dim that light going forward. Whether these leaders realize it or not, American voters are watching. And Americans are going to go to the polls, and they know that energy is on the ballot, and everything else that energy touches. Jobs are on the ballot. American security is on the ballot. Manufacturing is on the ballot. Inflation is on the ballot. They all depend in some ways on energy. Together, Republicans, Democrats, and independents can provide a better way, one that restores the bipartisan approach to energy, a strategy that increases access to resources, bolsters our infrastructure, and strengthens our security, a strategy that keeps the lights on. Let's start with access. Our country needs access to energy like we need access to any other staple, like food or shelter. It enables our security, and it sustains our way of life. Imagine if a president blocked development of farmland, disrupting our domestic food supply and making us more reliant on foreign countries to feed our families. It could have profound economic and security consequences for all Americans. We know the same thing happens when we block energy development. The Biden administration has locked up federal lands and waters to resource development. They released the federally mandated offshore leasing program 500 days late and included only 3 lease sales through 2029. And for the first time, there will be 0 lease sales in 2024. Onshore, the situation is not much better. The administration, at the beginning of this administration, they suspended quarterly lease sales, even though they're required by law. They announced last year that they were indefinitely blocking nearly 500,000 acres from energy development in Alaska, in a federal reserve created by Congress for petroleum development. Restricting energy supplies is not a way to lower demand. In fact, last year, the world reached record highs for oil demand, record highs for gasoline demand, and near record highs for natural gas demand. Nearly every forecaster projects new records this year. The question is where the supply will come from. In the absence of U.S. energy leadership, the world will likely turn to other sources, to dirtier fuels from unstable regions. Here's the good news. Today, America leads the world in oil and natural gas production. America produces oil and natural gas safely and with the highest environmental standards. Now, the bad news. Today's record production is due to investment and development decisions that were made years, and in some cases, decades ago. And the vast majority of new production, 2/3, has happened on private land. This isn't partisan. President Obama's energy record wasn't perfect, but his administration offered 96 onshore leases during his first 3 years, compared to just 18 in the Biden administration. Just as yesterday's policies are felt today, today's will be felt tomorrow. In some cases, Congress must step up and require lease sales, just as they did in the Inflation Reduction Act. To maintain America's energy advantage going forward, policymakers must increase energy leasing in federal lands and federal waters, approve permits in a timely manner, and remove barriers to developing America's resources. Our country should not suffer the consequences of short-sighted policies that ignore energy realities. As we increase access to U.S. energy resources, we need the infrastructure to move, process, and refine those resources. Thanks to recent legislation passed by Congress, we started the conversation on permitting reform, but it will take a lot more to rebuild our nation's infrastructure for the demands of the future. We need to permanently cut the red tape that's blocking construction, investment, jobs, and progress in America. Today, energy infrastructure projects take either too long to permit or go the way of the Atlantic Coast or Keystone pipelines or countless other pipelines that weren't permitted at all. This broken process has significant consequences. For example, the lack of natural gas pipeline approvals is one of the reasons why New England families pay some of the highest electricity rates in the country. We need clarity on U.S. LNG permitting as well. Our allies need U.S. LNG to meet their energy security and environmental goals, both now and into the future. 2 years ago, President Biden committed to sending American LNG overseas to our allies. Yet recent reports indicate the administration may abandon that promise. Halting U.S. LNG approvals would put our allies at risk. This should not be controversial. In fact, one of the biggest things that we can do for the environment is to send more U.S. LNG overseas to displace coal and to help cut global greenhouse gas emissions. And it's not just pipelines and LNG. Other energy projects like wind and solar can take 4 to 6 years to clear the federal environmental reviews. These permitting delays could also impact emerging technologies like carbon capture and hydrogen, where our industry is playing a leading role. Projects of all types are buried in red tape. Put simply, we can't unleash these technologies if we can't build them. Someone can finish 4 years of high school or get a college degree before an energy project is permitted, much less built. The final pillar of U.S. energy leadership is national security. Our adversaries have shown time and again their willingness to weaponize energy. We ignore their actions at our own peril. Our energy leadership is our security advantage. That leadership should include all energy sources, but unrealistic timelines and government mandates to achieve 100% renewables and 100% full electric vehicles don't bolster our advantage. They bolster other countries, in particular China's advantage. They also restrict Americans' options. Americans don't need mandates. They need more choices. More oil, more wind, more solar, more natural gas, and more modern infrastructure to support them. If it's energy made in America and it keeps the lights on, our policymakers and candidates should support it. That's the American energy advantage. Americans' advantages are anchored by our vast natural resources, but what really makes them shine are our people. The workers at the well, the innovators in the lab, the truckers on the road, and the next generation, the teachers and the students helping to bring our energy future into focus. People like Peyton Hagler of New Mexico. Peyton experienced firsthand the value of a good energy job, having worked for several years in the oil field. Now, he's helping the next generation by teaching vocational classes to high school students. With help from American Energy Partners, Peyton teaches 50 students about industry operations through hands-on learning modules, where they can visualize the science and engineering that goes into it. Stand up for us, Peyton. So Peyton flew in yesterday from the great state of New Mexico, one of our largest energy-producing states, and unfortunately, because of the weather, got diverted through Pittsburgh and then drove through the night to get here today. So thank you, Peyton, for your commitment. Attending with Peyton today are Trey Williams, who's principal of Lovington High School in Lovington, New Mexico, where Peyton teaches, and Pamela Quinones, superintendent of Lovington Schools. Thank you all for your commitment. No pro-energy platform is complete without supporting and investing in our energy workers, both today and into the future. And our workers, like other American voters, are paying attention this election year. We have an opening to illuminate what's at stake for our energy future. Energy historically has been a bipartisan issue. After all, what candidate doesn't want reliable, affordable energy, cleaner fuels, modern conveniences, and most importantly, stronger national security? We are an industry that works day and night to strengthen the American energy advantage. Together, we can keep the lights on with energy like oil and natural gas made right here in the United States of America. Thank you.